Good morning and welcome to WNHH-FM's Dateline New Haven. I'm your host, Paul Bass, inviting you to look behind the headlines on the stories that make our community tick. Boy, I love Fridays. You get 2 hours of Love Babs, Love Talk. What better way to end the week and go into the weekend? I know, just hearing Babs talk about anything, I just want to listen. It makes me feel so good, or sometimes challenged. And it is an honor to share this microphone with her. Anyway, what a week our community had. Lots of news, lots of stuff percolating in New Haven. Could try something new today. I'm going to take a look at some of the stories in the Independent this week. Just briefly say what the news was, what a couple people thought about it, and then highlight music by local New Haven musicians. There's so many, and only so many we can get per show. Love to do it. We're not going to do video today. We're just going to do audio from CDs, and Harry Droz, as usual, is working the controls. So one of the stories that really got people thinking this week, and what I love about it, is that I don't think there's a simple answer. And that was about driverless shuttles. So we want to become, we're not the first place in America talking about putting driverless cars on the street or other vehicles and see how they work, to test them out. Other cities have tried them and it hasn't always worked well. Some people feel Pittsburgh gave up its soul and people got killed. In New Haven, we're trying something much more modest. We want to be one of 4 cities that get money to test out a driverless van. And this van would be at the hospitals, right? So it would just take you to the hospitals. And they would go 15 miles an hour. But we need state money to try it. New Haven's on board. So it needs 2 approvals. It got its first of the 2 it needs this week at the City Plan Commission, but it was a close vote, 3-2. And it showed that people are divided on this. Some people think it's crazy. They don't like this future. Other people say, the future's here. Let's make it work and be part of making it work. And as I said, I don't have an answer on this because I don't like some things that happen with technological change. But technological change is with us, folks. Privacy issues is not going away. We're not going back to the good old days the way Joe Biden and Donald Trump tell us we can in different ways. The world's changing. Technology changes us. It's happened before. It's like the weather. We don't say it's good or bad. Let's have it happen or not. It's let's do something and deal with it and try to harness it to our benefit and emphasize the good, keep limits on the bad. So I think there's going to be driverless transportation. And I think there are dangers and there are benefits to it. And let me just tell you 4 things people said about it. So I would say go ahead with it, but be careful. Andrew Goering wrote, driverless cars are statistically much safer than driven cars. They don't text or get drunk, tired, or angry. What century are we living in? Looks like we need younger and more progressive representation on the city commission. Saying city plan is basically a bunch of old farts. I want to use the word farts, by the way. And then average taxpayer gave the other side on that. He wrote on the article in The Independent, if they're driving 10 to 15 miles per hour on public streets, accidents will result. Maybe not with the shuttles hitting anyone or anything, but more in terms of the huge number of cars changing lanes to get around them. And that makes me think about something about these kind of changes. If we believe a certain technological change can save a lot of lives, what happens in the short term when you test it and you might lose a few lives? Like, let's say somebody dies on the streets of New Haven because of one of these driverless vehicles. But then, a lot more people live in the long term because we have them. I mean, obviously, one of the questions is you control the experiments well, but, that's a question. And another question here is about who's going to work, right? So Man in the Pulpit says New Haven's is a good place to do it because the driver's running red lights, driving erratically, and poorly thought out intersections. I don't begrudge them looking for another way. Concern over automation removing drivers is overblown, but concerns over safety are not. But you know what? I do think jobs matter, and we have to be thinking about retraining and finding opportunities in the new economy rather than trying to hold jobs for people when we don't need those jobs to make the economy work, when we can invest in so many things we need, whether it's home health aides, more teachers in the schools, repairing roads and bridges. I don't know. Should I bring Harry Droz? Do you feel like coming on and giving your take on this? Because I just realized I'd be really interested in what you think about this because you know so much about technology. When you hear about New Haven wanting to experiment with having driverless shuttles on the street. Any thoughts on that?
Now, you just said it's a good thing for people to not have jobs?
No, not at all. I think we want them to have jobs, but jobs that are viable in the long term.
Transportation is viable.
Right, but what kind of transportation jobs? So the example here is if technology is going to make driving more efficient and safer in the long run with driverless vans, why not hire more people? Because we don't have enough people fixing the roads, right? And we don't have enough people.
So you think that it's going to be reinvested in that?
Well, not if your side of the political equation wins, where you never tax anybody, and Republicans, we don't invest in new jobs. But
No,
my
no,
point,
no. You're talking about getting rid of jobs and thinking that those employers are going to be willing to reinvest in those.
I'm
roles.
saying those jobs are going away anyway, Harry. Private companies run a lot of transportation, and they're going to make more truckers, right? That's the big thing.
Yep.
Trucking companies are going to make more money when people aren't driving the trunks and taking uppers to be up for 36 hours in a row and that kind of stuff. You think that you can stop that? You can stop private enterprise doing that rather than having government try to fix it?
We can slow it down. Government doesn't fix anything. Government does not fix anything. They actually just put obstacles in the way.
So what would you do?
Now, what I would do is, now the people of New Haven and of Connecticut have the choice to put pressure on their representatives not to allow this stuff.
So you would not have an experiment in New Haven of driverless shuttles?
Nope.
I
Me
wouldn't.
either.
I wouldn't.
Well, now why not you, Babs?
Because I think it's a precursor to getting rid of jobs,
Yeah.
number one. Second, I'm not sure that we are prepared for that level of I just think that that's the beginning of taking away valuable jobs that people used to have to raise families on and buy a house on. I mean,
Can I give you the counter argument?
I'm sure.
Okay, here's the counter argument. I care about those jobs too. I think that's not the only industry where we're going to lose jobs because of new technology. It's happened over time when we started having washing machines. You know, we had electricity, we had cars, then we had buses, so now as many people had to get around. Or you had machines that could do the work. You go to sergeants now, you need a lot fewer people to make the stuff. Or the argument is that instead of trying to keep jobs that might not stay there, why don't we pivot and support creation of jobs and training for jobs that we actually need? We have falling apart roads and bridges all over the place. We have insufficient mass transit. We don't have home health aides enough, and they're not paid enough. We don't have enough teachers in the school and enough aides. What if we said, when an industry is coming and it might do something better for society, why don't we support creation and retraining for jobs that will make us stronger as an economy and a
Paul,
country?
that makes no sense. I'm
Yeah,
sorry for interrupting you.
I will say this. I think we have the.
It's happening anyway.
We
But in letting those,
because it's happening doesn't mean we should be doing it. We have the power to not have it happen. I mean, so if we do buses without drivers, then we have classrooms without teachers.
No, we want more
Then we
teachers.
have doctors,
but we don't want
without-
that.
Then we have hospitals without doctors.
Okay, I would argue that's a good point. I would argue that
It-
you never should go to automated
it is
teachers.
opening
You should never
Pandora's
go
box.
to,
But why would we?
So-
Why would we go to automated cars?
because it's a more efficient and safer way of driving.
But
I'd rather not drive.
But we could make that argument about teachers. I mean, they're already doing teacherless classrooms over at
Yeah.
the.
And I actually think
the
that's a
Hobart
mistake.
School.
I actually believe that you need more, especially in schools, you know, for K-12 and
But if
college.
they could show you data that
Data
yeah.
doesn't work for me on that.
okay.
no, but you see that.
I know you need the aid in the
See,
school. You have
that-
25 kids in the school in
That's
the
an
class,
argument
and two
that
of
we
them
can
have
say
big
with,
problems.
that is not going to work on us with this driverless stuff, because it
I am scared of
is-
freaked out. I freaked about like not being able to grab the wheel and you're in control of something that might make you die. But I mean, I think that's getting used to the new world, folks.
I
I
don't-
think if
I
we
don't
go to
think
sleep for
so.
30 years, it's there, whether or not we test it here.
I think that's a. I don't think we have to chase technology at that level.
But what's the
because we
incentive? too?
can.
What's the incentive of
What
them
is what
testing
good
it
does
here?
that do?
Right.
It's-
So are they saying they're going to take away drivers and they're going to
No, they're going to implement the new shuttle so people can get around more easily to the
what's-
hospital.
No, what
But
about the
you're
old
saying
shuttle?
that's going to lead to people getting new jobs and all. What's their investment in actually moving that money that they're going to save into?
There's no
help-
money they're going to save. We're going for grant money for the test. I guess I see your point. I guess I do think it's incredibly dangerous on New Haven streets now. And I would love there to get us to the system where we have a safer.
You think that's going to make
system.
us safe? Look,
I
let me
do
tell
think
you
in the long
something.
run, not the
Particularly
short
when
run.
we already know that some of this technology that they put out to, what happens when these driverless cars hit somebody of color because they can't determine the color of somebody's skin.
Mm.
I mean, we already had that instance, right?
And we know
Like,
with facial recognition, that's a big
like,
problem.
is
Much
that
bigger
working?
error
So
rate
I'm
with facial
just trying to
recognition.
understand. And what happens? Do they run at night? I mean, I'm just not.
These are
for,
good questions.
I'm not for technology for the sake
That's
of
a good-
technology.
I agree, but I
That's
think
a good
change.
point,
It's like
because
facial
think about
recognition is
that.
much trickier. That's dangerous.
But not just
it's going in
facial-
your private hands, but
facial
it's happening.
recognition.
It's not going to not happen. Everyone's going to get it at Amazon for their front door so their packages don't get stolen. Police departments are already doing it. It's out of the bag. There's a new private company that they wrote about in the Times Sunday that police departments are already signing up that could do 10 times what China does.
I
hate it. I hate the facial
Harry and I
recognition.
had this conversation on my show this morning. At some point, there are going to be police cars, right?
RoboCop.
There's going to cruise the neighborhood for crime.
That is scary.
That's the next order of things because we already have it in the grocery store.
So the question is, what do we do about that?
We have the power to do anything we want about it because the technology didn't just arrive.
But will we succeed?
Created.
Will we succeed in trying to go back to a day before this technology existed, or do we succeed as a rhetorical question by trying to harness the technology to incorporate our concerns?
We could just
for
look
social
to history.
good?
I mean, slavery was a legal institution. We don't have slavery anymore in the ways that
because we found ways we can operate without having to enslave human beings.
We can
maybe we can
do
see
that.
let's see technology as a way to liberate us rather than enslave us because we could do both.
Well, as long as we keep rolling over and allowing them to do whatever they want.
That's how I feel, Harry.
But Harry's a tech guy. Harry, you love machines.
I'm a tech guy, but a realist. I mean, you have huge tech guys who are leery of this. You have
I think leery is understandable.
Who's telling you AI is a dangerous thing.
Right. I'm with you guys. I could worry about the dangers. I guess I'm just not sure if just saying don't do it is going to be a successful strategy.
But you know what? The power of the people, it's the power of the people that will decide whether or not this comes this year, next year, 20 years from now.
Got it.
And that is so true, right? So think about it. We have the power to basically make ourselves unemployed. That's insane. We're gonna vote.
We have the power to liberate
us.
How about if we liberate ourselves from boring, dehumanizing work and use technology as an opportunity to give us more leisure time and more ability to create high value work that we believe in?
We have cell phones. Has that given you more leisure time?
I hate cell phones.
Has it given you more leisure time? Okay, because it's
it's
useful technology that we all can't live without now.
That's a utopian point of view that's never gonna happen. Never.
Right. Let me ask you another question. If I do go ahead with this plan of playing music, will you guys stay in the studio or will I lose you?
No, I'll hang out.
All right. Then that's gonna this is great. You're listening to Headlines, News, and Views. Got much better since Babs came in the room. And Harry Dross, rather than boring old Paul.
I'm okay.
Okay, so we're gonna play a song and then get back to more news and headlines from a group called Suburban. They've been on the radio show here. They broke up, guys.
Why?
Although, because I guess they went on to other projects. You know, it was the two brothers, Charlie Widmer and Fred Widmer.
I tell you, these groups don't have no staying power like
but
the
Charlie's
Temptations.
also, yep, that's true. Temptations has so much staying power that they get the fifth generation of Temptations.
That's
right.
right.
Yeah. But they still left us behind good music, including one that has to do with driverless vans and driverless transportation. This is Suburban with If You Wanna Fly.
Oh, that's nice. That's all right. Why not on here?
Yeah.
That technology shit is years old, man.
If you wanna fly. Yeah. Oh, to fly high above the trees. Being in the plane to me is just a tease. The calm of the clouds, the feel of the breeze. Life from up here just seems at ease. And any location could be our destination. No long travel or endless waiting. Down there there's hate, down there there's panic. And even though they try to explain, I'll never understand it. So just keep your eyes fixed on the horizon. Before you said the land, now you're saying the fly. Slingshot, no strings, only thing you got is my shoulder. You're down in hesitation, weighing down like boulders. Don't worry, we gon' get there. I told you, so just keep your eyes shut and hold on till it's over. So I spend every night with my eyes shut tight, praying that maybe one day I too could take flight.
If you wanna fly with me, keep an open mind and see. Open up your eyes and see. If you wanna fly with me.
One night at my window sat a strange man. I asked his name and he told me he was Peter Pan. He started telling me about this place called Neverland, where you never age. And every day is a blank page, everything's an adventure. Oh, he said, I forgot to mention, I know that you will come, and please allow me to tell you why. If you choose to come with me, then I will teach you how to fly. I was so fucking excited I wanted to cry, but he disappeared and reemerged out of the corner of my eye.
Where you
Handed
wanna
me a
go?
contract and a pen, told me to read and take my time in to sign on that dotted line. I said, nah, man, I'm not trying to be
Oh,
famous.
yeah, you
I'd
can
rather
drop
be
me
with
off.
my family
You
than
can drop me
remain
off my
nameless.
house. I live
Because to
in
me, this is the
Newhallville.
definition of flying. What he was doing was selling dreams and
If you
just lying.
wanna fly with me, keep an open mind.
This is nice. I like this.
Open up your eyes and see if you wanna fly with me. If you wanna fly with me. If you wanna fly with me, keep an open mind and see. Open up your eyes and see. If you wanna fly with
If you want to fly with me, we're flying with Suburban. They might have gone on to other projects and disbanded, but they live on WNHH FM. Great local music here and great local talk on Dateline New Haven. We're doing headlines and baselines with Harry Droz, Babs Rawls Ivy, and I'm your host, Paul Bass, looking at the week in review and interspersing that with some local music.
I like that music, Paul.
Yeah, that was really good. I'm going to keep going in the
Oh.
background. They were happening. I saw them at Cafe 9 once. They were really good.
Really? I
They
wish
came
I
on
would
the
have
air.
seen them. I
And I'm
enjoyed
not
that.
into opera. Like Charlie's a momish opera singer, like trained, sings around the world, and he came in and sang that too, and I could tell it was good, even though I can't relate to opera. But anyway, so folks, let me tell you about another story. Now, this is a classic New Haven independent story. I think you're going to be really interested in it. It's not the kind of thing people usually write about. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
it's about a building on Dixwell Avenue, 308 Dixwell Avenue. It's a church building, and the church is called the New Growth Praise Center.
Where is that? I don't even know where that is.
Do you remember Walt's Cleaners?
Yes.
Okay, so right near Henry Street, next to Walt's Cleaners. Walt's Cleaners is empty. A lot of buildings there.
Didn't that used to be a funeral home?
Yep.
Okay, I know it now.
I went to a funeral there once, actually.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm not sure if that's the one.
That was the Perkins. Wasn't that the Perkins
yeah,
funeral
the
home?
famous. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll talk about that another time. What happened there? Anyway, so a lot of the buildings there are empty. So there's this race going on that block because we want Dixwell to be vibrant again. Heart of the black community historically is the commercial heart. So the city government, especially Livable City Initiative, Serena and Neil Sanjura, who grew up a block away, they're worried those buildings get in the wrong hands. There are these big property management companies in town that are just buying up so much property, tens of millions of dollars a year, folks. And they even got one up the street, Monterey Cafe. We had a separate story this week. The empty Monterey, they're going to
That
make
made
a lot
me
of
so
apartments there.
sick.
Although not me, I didn't like who bought it. But
That's
do you
what
think
I mean.
it's bad?
I don't like who bought it.
But the fact that nothing's happened on that block, if you got 10 apartments there, is that bad? It's who bought it.
I don't know. I don't know if it's a good or bad thing. It's just that the people that bought it, we already know their track record.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
and that matters.
it really
So
does.
I have a lot of faith in LCI and Serena Neil Sanjuro, because what she's done quietly is done some kind of cool housing development in neighborhoods where people get to buy it and stuff. So here's what they're trying to do on Dixwell. They're trying to buy up a lot of property and then do a big retail project where the city owns the properties, then maybe resells them, but kind of picks what kind of stuff goes there and who goes there, right? Get it going again. So they bought up most of that block, including all the buildings around this vacant church building. But they were worried somebody else would get that church, including the group that got the Monterey. So they said, can we buy it from you? It's in bad shape. and we'll pay you $30,000 more than it's worth because somebody else is going to come in and pay you even more. So that way it gives you an incentive to give it to us. So they're going to pay $190,000 rather than $160,000 for this property, and it's part of a larger project. So they went before their board, the LCI board, said, "Yeah, go for it." And it's going to go before the full board or alders. But people are raising some questions because there's always questions because things aren't simple, right? So some people say, great idea. And I'll just reveal my bias. I'm among them. I like the idea of doing a big project like that, even though the 60s taught us that sometimes having government get a whole bunch area and get bringing someone to do it doesn't always work out. Sometimes it's better if someone does it on their own, which is like the good stuff going on at Dixwell Plaza, which we're going to hear more about next week, by the way. So I was thinking good idea. LCR board thought a good idea. Some people said we shouldn't pay a premium. Just get it without that extra money. They were saying that might not happen. Other people say don't have government determine. Let everybody make investment decisions about what will work, and that's what
I'm sorry. Did everybody make a determination in the last 40 years about this space?
That's the question. And the last question raised was that the church is run by the Reverend Scott Marks, who's an influential union alder and is married to, a leader who's married to an alder. So they're saying the city should not be buying property for more than the amount from a family that has an elected official that votes on it. Any thoughts?
This is what I know about politics and government. No matter what you do, nobody's going to be 100% happy. There's always going to be you're not going to have everybody on board, no matter what you do. I don't care if Christ and the 12 disciples came with some development money. There'll be some people who would not think that was a good idea.
The famous Jesse Jackson line. He says, if Jesse walked on water, they say Jesse can't swim.
Right. So, but something needs to happen. I want to see a renaissance of that community. If I had money, I know what I would want to do over there.
What would you want to do there?
I'd love to see a tea room and a coffee shop and a jazz nightclub. That's my own personal. If I had money, I would want to see there.
Jazz nightclub. Now, why is it that the coffee shop didn't work at where Kay's is now?
Because it wasn't. First of all, it wasn't a real coffee shop.
Like 3 tables.
It was
to go.
It doesn't matter if it was to go. People will go to go stuff. Every time you walked in, they never had anything.
Oh,
they had like two choices of coffee, a tea, and then some bread.
So you say really do it up.
So you have to
get
really
like 100 kinds. Well, the ASCII Fussy Coffee does work a block away.
Yes, Fussy
Coffee
works because they give you stuff, and there's
and that's right across the street.
It's a cool space,
and they're building 400 apartments right across the street. You got to figure something can work.
Yeah, I would love to have. I've talked about this when I was in Jamaica a couple of years ago with some girlfriends,
including the person who runs that spot now.
Yes, with Kay, she takes women to Sisters Jamming. She takes women to Jamaica. She's been doing it for 20 years. And so we took a plantation tour, and I'm sitting there listening to the people talk about the revolution of coffee. And I thought, you know what? I would love to have a revolutionary coffee shop on Dixwell Avenue with a bookstore and a tea room.
Ooh,
like a tea room with vegan bakery. That's my dream. That's a
you
dream
didn't tell
that
me
I would
about the
have.
vegan bakery. It's a little dangerous for me.
A vegan bakery.
Waistline-wise.
Because vegan bakery, vegan baked goods have come a long way.
And actually, vegan food is really spreading in the black community nationally. It's
and you could get vegan baked goods that rival any traditional bakery.
Finally, they figured out how to do vegan baking so that it has that kind of substance and mouthfeel.
I was in season vegan the other Saturday, and I had the cheesecake.
I had the Mississippi mudslide last time.
And I brought the cookies home.
Man, that's evil. So here's the larger questions going on at Dixwell, Babs and Harry. So this is a microcosm. That's one block of the broader debate about Dixwell. So Dixwell's time might be coming.
I think it is.
There's a lot of investment. So you have the Next Haven Arts Community with Titus Caffer right down the street. You got 400 apartments being built, mostly market rate right down the street. You got the Q House being rebuilt a block away, $20 million. And Dixwell Plaza, which fell apart, it is being bought piece by piece by something called Concord, which they do, the phlebotomist training and the after-school art stuff, and they're starting to invest in businesses that hire local people. They train. They've done some food businesses like that great cafe at the library and the one on Ashman Street. So next week, they've been secretive, which kind of pisses people off. This week, Eric Clemens is coming public, this coming week, in Dixwell, Stetson, can tell people what they're up to. But some people say they're Yale because they travel in circles where they're able to get investment. But it's actually African-American people from New Haven, starting with Carlton Highsmith, who made his fortune here. Eric
and they've
Clemens.
got a solid board of black people.
Yeah. I mean, I would argue that this is black self-determination, but I'm not black. So I always said, like, why are people griping when a really talented group of, I guess it's mostly men.
Because I think we're in a
the guy who Gideon who ran.
we're in a season of griping, Paul. Even if it's good for you. Even
Well,
if
do you
it's
think
good.
it's good what's happening with Dixwell Plaza?
I think so, and I don't feel that they're secretive in the way that people think it's like.
Well, they think
it's secretive because whatever. I think it takes time to pull the pieces together.
In 2 years.
And I think, but it still takes time to pull together a project of this magnitude together.
Well, it means they had no nefarious intent, but they agree they've been waiting too long to explain public because they bought up piece by piece. It's a co-op, Dixwell Plaza. They bought it up piece by piece for years.
And honestly, majority of people are not media savvy. I'm not making excuses for them. I think in this day and age, you have to be very media savvy about how you.
So
move.
now they are. They finally hired Mercy Quay,
who I love, who is very media savvy.
And she's very much about be open. So anyway, last week we were talking about this, and it was a bunch of white guys. Or 2 weeks ago, we got some pushback. Like, what are you white guys talking about Dixwell Plaza? So we think it's great because, for instance, things change. Remember we talked about change last segment?
Yeah.
So Stetson Library is moving across the street to the Q House. So is Cornell Scott. Those were the two anchors.
Yes.
You have a couple of businesses that are owned, not I think by black people for the most part, but it's really falling apart, and it's not that strong. You do have the Great New Haven Business Professional Association, which I hope stays there. They do great work, and I think it'd be good faith there in the basement there. Oh, you don't think so? Tell me what you think.
I guess they.
They're quiet. They
do?
train people. They get loans and stuff for people. They give them advice about how to keep your contracting in business. They become a conduit that if you want to hire people on the job. Okay, maybe I'm wrong.
No,
but in any case,
I don't. I have no
But the
idea.
big picture is, I think the Dixwell Plaza was built in the 60s and 70s when they tore down parts of Dixwell Avenue, and they had a dream of the suburban style shopping center. I think its time has passed, and the fact that you're going to get tens of millions of dollars invested, local talented black experienced people running it from the area, I think it's a win-win.
I do too.
Well, I want to hear more about what they're up to.
I don't think they're not wanting to tell people, but as I said, I think it takes time to sort of pull these things together, and I think that the right idea is to bring on somebody like a Mercy Quake who can help craft a conversation for the community.
So you're for the sale of the church. Are you worried about an alder's family getting a price above the appraised price?
No.
Okay. Harry?
That's just the price of doing business.
Yeah. Harry, thoughts?
I agree with Babs.
Me too. Okay. There's no fun because the last segment we really disagreed, although he did have some good points. I think we agree on this. Like, good things happening in Dixwell. Fine to ask some good questions. Let's get some more details, but up and up and happening.
Yeah. I mean, I live on Ivy Street. I'd love to be able to ride my bike down Shelton, down to Dixwell to my own coffee shop and to whatever's going on at the Q House, or I'm looking forward to the things I'm looking forward to the future of things. Like something might be going on at Next Haven.
I'm looking for the future too.
So I can ride my bike to Next Haven. I can ride my bike to the Q House. I can go to the Stetson Library. I can do. I love being able to sort of have that kind of living experience.
And I know there are a lot of things that we're not going to
with
argue
black people.
We're not going to revisit this again about the Harp administration, what was fair to criticize and what not. But one thing I think they got a bum rap about was neighborhood development. Incredible things started in Dixwell when they were there. And while they weren't the reason it all started, they did a great job of shepherding it. Serena Neal Sangiorgio at LCI, she runs it. They kept her on in the new administration. She's had real vision for that place because she grew up at Florence Virtue, right behind Dixwell Plaza. She spent decades learning how to do community development. She's one of our big assets in town. Sort of like Karen Du Bois Walton. Some of these people who quietly behind the scenes have learned how to do big deals and get things built and hire people and not be corrupt about it and have a vision. And I see that coming to fruition in Dixwell, and I do think it's essential that the city's been a part of that. And I just think it's all good.
I think it's all good too. I think we just have to be mindful of. I mean, I listen. I am all for communities sort of having a place at the table. I believe in that. I have been at the table on both sides, so I get it. But I think at the same time, though, that people have to. We have to get to a place where people start to understand what is a shared destiny in terms of what makes sense for this community and how they can be a part of it. Everything doesn't require a pushback.
Okay, so the one pushback that did happen, that Serena at LCI heard the public and changed her mind. I happen to think she was right and they were wrong, but I don't live there. There's the white guy again talking about what's better for community. They also wanted to change the zoning on Dixwell Avenue. The Harp administration worked for 6 years. They said, we want to make the commercial districts better neighborhoods, like Grand Avenue, like Whaley, like Dixwell. And one way we're going to do it is not just make it so that big rich guys can come in and develop stuff and buy zoning approvals. Let's change zoning so a little person can go in, and put a store and a apartments in. And let's make it so they can build more apartments than used to be able to build there from out-of-date zoning so they can afford to make them affordable.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what the zoning changes were. They got such pushback in Dixwell, not just from people who don't understand and come from outside the neighborhood. There was some of that, like the people who tried to kill the skate park. But genuinely from Varick people, from local contractors and people in the neighborhood saying, we think this is gentrification. And they killed the zoning, the rezoning, so that only the good things can happen on Whaley, not Dixwell. But this week at Varick, they are going to bring an expert in and lots of people in the neighborhood saying, let's try over again. We'll take a few more years. And let's talk about how we do this rezoning right. Now, Serena was listening to the neighbor, and she said, well, they don't like things to be so densely built. They just don't want that. So that's guiding how she thinks about buying this church that we began this segment with and all that property. She had argued in the past that you do want it to be dense because that's how you can afford to charge less per apartment. That's how you can enable someone who's not a big money bag from out of town, but someone making it happen here as a builder here in New Haven afford to do it. That's how you can change the rules that were out of date and never made sense about how far back a building has to be from the street or how much parking for the modern day so we get more people living in Dixwell so they can actually patronize those stores. So I'm often biased toward the people in government. I don't always have enough distance because I know they have good motives and they listen to the ideas du jour. And I was totally buying what she and the city plan people were saying. The neighborhood has definitely said no to that. Where do you think we go with that? Is Varick meeting this week in the neighborhood going, that's not rezoning?
I think the word gentrification takes on so many mismeanings for people.
Yeah.
Right? Like I think people have this fear that and it's a real
genuine
fear.
fear.
It's a real fear that white folks, we're gonna start to see white folks with their little dogs and take over the neighborhood, and then
that's what's happening big time Worcester Square by the dog park. They're selling 500
but that's real,
yeah.
and not it's not that we don't want white folks in black neighborhoods. It's that the rents become only they are able to afford. And so that becomes problematic. So when you hear gentrification or when you think you see gentrification, your first instinct is
in this case with the
stomp it out.
rezoning, I felt that what Serena and the city were doing was doing the biggest effort you can to do something opposite of gentrification.
I think the problem is,
and it got
Paul,
called gentrification and killed.
I think the problem is that they didn't do a good job of explaining that in terms that the community could wrap their arms around. Because I think it just looked like, I think from where I said, it looked like, just trust us to do the right thing by you.
But they had like years of public meetings. Not that many people went. It's hard to go to public meetings. Articles in the Independent.
Communities are fickle things. You can have 20 years and then one.
So you're gonna stick
derail
around?
the whole thing.
If I keep up this idea of playing a song in between discussions, I can still keep you in the
I'll
studio.
hang out.
Okay, because Jay Hogarth had something to say about this. He did. We're on Dateline New Haven. Babs Rose-Ivy, Harry Jost, Paul Bales, talking about this week's headlines and interspersing it with local recordings. So this is what Jay Hogarth, the great jazz musician, had to say about it on Harlem Hieroglyphs' CD. Jay said, everything must change. Welcome back to Dateline New Haven. You're listening to news headlines and views of the week's past and local music with Harry Droz, Babs Rose Ivy, and Paul Bass. And in the background, I love this music. Jay Hogard with Everything Must Change. We've been talking about that.
That's beautiful.
One question about change is what we've seen before our eyes changing by the day at Elm Street in Orange. There was an old bank there, an Art Deco bank for the mid-1900s, Webster Bank, beautiful lobby, everything. And they tore it down to build a hotel because a lot of hotels coming to town. Everything must change. 132-room Hilton Garden Inn, which is going to have a good prayer room for Thursday night cocktails.
Yes.
So when they tore down the building, some people knew this, but most of us didn't. Something got revealed. They tore down the Art Deco bank building, and inside it was a church from the 1800s.
That was amazing.
A Gothic Portland stone church. I never heard of Portland stone. I'm not going to pretend I really know this stuff. I had to look it up. But it looked cool. And it looked like from another time. And it was there for 75 years. It was St. Thomas's before they moved.
Wow.
So some people say this is what's wrong with us knocking down stuff too much like we did in the 60s. They couldn't stop that. They had a lot of hearings, but they couldn't force them to keep the building up and reuse it. Other people say that gets taken to an extreme anyway, because if you look at what happened, when they built that first church, first they built something else, knocked it down, moved it somewhere else, moved a house somewhere else because it didn't fit in the street anymore in the 1800s. Then they built this church in a style from that day. Then they said this street is becoming like commerce now. Church doesn't fit. Let's build a church up the street. So they built another kind of building, Art Deco, around it. Although I think the building was mostly ugly, except for the cool Art Deco parts. I feel like preservationists sometimes say, don't build something ugly, but if you do, in 1,500 years, we want you to say, don't knock it down because it shows what the time was like. And now we got to preserve it. So the question is, do we too quickly tear down our history, or is that part of what change is? We rebuild, re-envision, and we'll look at it differently 50 years hence. Like, how do you feel about this whole church disappearing before our eyes?
I mean, Paris has a very good system in place. They don't tear down any of the old buildings. That's why when you're in Paris, the city looks exactly how it looks, when it was built. The boulevards are as equally wide. The buildings are, they don't allow for, buildings to be torn down in lieu of modern things. But on the other side of the world, when you look at Tokyo and Hong Kong and those places like that, they tear down their old buildings in a heartbeat and build these monstrous structures. And I feel like they're going to lose a part of their history. I was at a cocktail party. I was at a holiday party, and I was sitting with a guy who is an international architect, and he was talking about how he was in Tokyo, trying to have a conversation with them about don't destroy all your old community.
So
and
it's
they
a
were
balance.
like, we don't want to hear that.
So it's a balance, and plus it was a better buildings were built better then. And in New Haven, we definitely tore down too much in the 60s.
Yeah,
right? Everything had to look modern. It happened to be a bad time for
so much
architecture.
so that we had a highway that went nowhere.
But it was then we went to reuse like Union Station. They were going to tear it down. They made it beautiful again.
Yeah.
Or College. The reason Schubert and College Square is so nice is because of all the beautiful rehab. So rehab is good, but it's not always possible. It costs a lot, and sometimes they want to keep stuff that maybe you don't need. I didn't feel that old Webster building looked that good. But I do believe they've repurposed that big lobby. It might have been a cool lobby for, I don't know, what do you think?
I mean, I wish we would have known that there was a church underneath. Then maybe a different kind of deconstruction could have happened to preserve or to build it into the scape of the plans. I don't know. I mean, I think there is a great deal of value in trying to hold on to things, But
so
it costs money.
Would you have not knocked it down or what?
I don't know. I think I would have tried to find a way to incorporate that historical value into the existing. We don't always have to tear things down to the floor. We could find creative ways to build on top. I think that would have been a much more compelling story as you build a hotel to say, this hotel history started from here, and this is part of the old part of the. I just think we should spend some time doing that.
All right. So
I'm fascinated by the whole thing.
Yeah.
I've just every day I've been psyched. I go there, I sneak on the property till they kick me out, and I take pictures of it at every step, and it's really fun.
Yeah.
You say you're going to get killed. I said, yeah, but there are good pictures there. You kind of watch it happening. When it first emerged in view, it was
it's
amazing.
And and I agree totally with Babs. If you could preserve some of that history, it would have been nice.
Yeah, it would have been nice, right? Like a wall or something, or a ceiling, something. You know, don't just tear it down. I mean, we know what a Hilton looks like. I mean, they all make it a little interesting.
Okay, another story this week is on the break. You were telling me something interesting I hadn't thought about. Babs, is they had a press conference about a bill Rosa DeLauro has. She wants to get more money so people can afford legal aid lawyers when you're getting evicted. Because, like, if you're charged of a violent crime, you get a lawyer. It's not always good representation, as we know, but you're technically supposed to get a lawyer. But if it's a civil lawsuit, they're evicting you, you don't get a lawyer. So this woman spoke at City Hall. They had a press conference supporting it named Phyllis Johnson. She said, I was homeless. I was getting evicted. I represented myself. I got kicked out. Second time I was getting evicted, I got a legal aid lawyer, and I stayed in my home. And obviously everyone should have a lawyer, and I'm all for it. Let me give you a counter argument made by an African-American woman named Leslie. She said, I'm an African-American single female homeowner who owns a home with a rental unit in the Hill. I rented a fully appliance with washer and dryer, one-bedroom apartment at an affordable rate of $750 a month to a single male who decided he wanted to spend his time and money with his new girlfriend and no longer pay his rent or utilities anymore. It took me 4 months, $285 in sheriff and court costs to go through the eviction process, $360 to keep the water authority from placing a lien on my property for his unpaid water bill, and 4 months lost rent. I didn't have any lawyer fees because I couldn't afford to have one. The final step is to pay the cost to execute the eviction the court approved after 4 months. Sheriff fee, $100 an hour minimum, 1 hour. Mover fee, $133 an hour minimum, 2 hours, $4 per box. I'm glad he didn't get a lawyer to delay the process any longer. I'm at a loss at over $3,000 in unpaid rents, costs, and fees. I'll have to take him to small claims court to try to recoup that at $5 a week until he paid.
Wow.
So much for being a bad apple landlord who went into eviction without a lawyer, and this was one of 10 landlords that the lawyer didn't talk about. So who's looking out for me and other landlords like me? Because we have stories too. Any thoughts, guys?
That's real. I feel for her.
Oh, totally.
I mean, that's real.
Yeah, it's the reason why I decided not to be a landlord. I started off being
I was a landlord once. I had to evict somebody. That was tough.
Yeah, and
in the house where I
bring
lived.
people in. It's a
I loved it,
family.
too.
They stop paying their rent.
They were doing drugs. Yeah.
It's like, what do you do with that? Right? And then you start losing money.
Yeah.
It's hard because then you see their kids. You know, you don't want to evict the kids. You don't want to. You're stuck. You're really stuck. So I said, this is not for me. I just can't do it because I'm angry with the parents, but I like the kids. It's just
See, I think there's an easy answer on
situation.
this policy-wise.
No, I don't think there's an easy.
No, here's the
I-
easy answer: is that every tenant should have a good legal aid lawyer,
Yes.
and that doesn't mean
that's
mean the
definitely- I
tenant's
agree with
always
that.
right and the landlord's bad. A small tenant, a small landowner like this, who's making the Hill stable. This woman is a reason that Truman.
And I think she should
Truman
get
Street's gotten so good.
assistance too.
She should get it too.
Yeah.
The system should be fair to everybody.
Yeah.
Right now, if you're poor, the system's not fair to you.
Yeah.
Even though there are built-in protections for tenants in the law that screw the small landlord, but not the big one, because the big one can shoulder the cost and is often not responsible. A responsible woman like this does get screwed. But I don't think the answer, and she's not saying it, but other commenters were, is to cut back on rights or support for renters. I think the answer is to give everybody fair representation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I think that makes sense.
It's the American system. Everybody should be represented equally.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not so, but we should try our best to make it so.
Okay, I want to lead into our final topic with a blast. You're going to hear a certain reverend speaking at the beginning of the song.
Oh.
He didn't make the song. The song is by a New Haven band called Miracle Legion. It's not around anymore. They've become other things. But it's about an incident that happened in 1990. Well, I'm sorry, I got to get the date right here. In 1989 in Bensonhurst, New York.
Oh.
And it's an incident we're thinking about this week for other reasons in New Haven, and the same reverend is going to be here. I think you know what I'm leading up to, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is Snacks and Candy by Miracle Legion at WNH.
But there's one thing we all got in common, and that is no justice. No peace. No justice. No peace.
That's birthday down at 2007. Outsiders got the invitation. Gonna be there, gonna turn them back. baseball bat. I 5 for Silas Squid. He's a little bit older than the rest of the kids. He's got a gun and it keeps it handy. Gonna meet him down at Snacks and Candy, 'cause we're going down. To Snacks and Candy going down. And we're going down. To Snacks and Candy going down. Take some practice, catch down on the playground fence. Somebody's coming, but I surely don't know when. Night riding in a big black hearse, man, it's a big black night down in the Benson hearse. 920 just the ordinary, but sometimes changing things are getting scary. Gonna keep the beaches wet and sandy when we rendezvous down at Snacks and Candy, 'cause we're going down. To Snacks and Candy going down. 'Cause we're going down. Snacks and Candy going down. Don't go over to Teresa's house. Gonna straighten her out. Get ready for another ride. Mister, they give anything just to walk right by. D-Day's getting near. Somebody said that the black boys are over here. And then I heard a sound just like a firecracker. Must be good old Jojo, he's a pistol pack. And that little boy lying like a raggedy Andy. Just another weekend and Snacks and Candy, 'cause we're going down. The Snacks and Candy going down. Yeah, we're going down. No, man, we're going down. 'Cause we're going down. The Snacks and Candy going down. Yeah, and we're going down. Yeah, we're going down. 'Cause we're going down. The Snacks and Candy going down, 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 down. And we're going down.
We're going down to Snacks and Candy, Miracle Legion, their song about Yusuf Hawkins, who was beaten to death, unarmed man, by a black mob in Bensonhurst in 1997, I believe it was. That was a great song. You should have heard them singing it on. We sometimes play the video here on Dateline New Haven of when they were on Letterman and really cut loose on it. But the carnage continues, and we're dealing with a society and not getting any further. You heard Al Sharpton at the beginning there saying no justice, no peace. Al Sharpton is planning to be in New Haven on Sunday for a funeral of yet another young black man killed, slaughtered, in this case by police. And his name is, and I do use that word, his name is Mubarak Suleiman. He's a Ghanaian immigrant. He was 19 years old. And this was an incredible case. His funeral is going to be at First Calvary Baptist Church at 1 o'clock. Al Sharpton is going to be speaking there. And this case has led to a lot of discussion in town. So he's from New Haven, this guy. He was apparently really beloved and a good student. He also had mental illness, schizophrenia. He did do some crimes. And the day before he died, his brother called the New Haven police. Said, we're worried he's missing, he's mentally ill. The New Haven police tracked him down, said, okay, it's okay, let's keep track. He's alive. And then the next day, he held up somebody with a knife, stole the Uber driver's car, and went on a wild ride. Now, local police departments, which are coming into the 21st century, Norwalk, West Haven, decided not to chase him because they thought that would make it much more dangerous for everybody, and that the only danger to public safety at that point was whether they chase him and then you get a crash, as opposed to just following where he goes and notifying other people and catching up with them. But the state police are cowboys. State police are violent. They have not come into this century, and they're unaccountable. And there's not enough time here, but we have a long history of that in New Haven. We know about this. They decided to do a cowboy chase, high speed, 100 miles an hour, weaving in and out of traffic. They box him in, 4 cars. They go up to the car. He's inside, has a knife. And while he's inside, first they break a window and tase him on the passenger side. It doesn't stop him. He's inside. The door is closed. A trooper breaks the window after having run up to the car, fires 7 shots point blank, and kills him. Here's my question. We watched the video. Why is it that even people we consider of goodwill who criticize some other shootings, why is there anyone here defending this? saying that it's not necessarily an out-and-out assassination and terrible police work beginning with the decision to be amped up and have no strategy when you
People are
run up to
not
this
saying
car.
that?
Well, some of us say like everything was wrong and it amped up the cop, and then you don't run up to a car where you're not in any danger and just start shooting and breaking windows without some kind of strategy. And then if you don't have anyone attacking you right there, you don't shoot them to death at point blank range. But actually, people who have criticized other shoots like the Hamden officer involved say you have to consider that moment when it happens. That was the excuse during Malik Jones, which was pathetic. You know, they created this dangerous situation, ran up, and then because the cop at that minute after jumping on the roof of the car and blasting through a window, an unarmed man because he thought he got a go to hell look. They thought that go to hell look meant, therefore he believed he was in danger. It's okay. They're saying here, this guy had a knife. Who knows what else he had? And you have to think that moment, what's on the cop's mind, and he might have been at risk. This guy had been, he had put other people at risk. This dead man now, he did commit a crime. He did have a knife.
I'm so tired of these cops always feeling like they're at risk.
I feel like there are moments of clarity that there is no way you can. And that's why I get some help here, Harry. Because I've been reading the comments defending it. I really am very sympathetic to cops and the danger they're in. And when they're not doing things wrong, which is most of the time, I'm very sympathetic about the tough decisions. This didn't seem like a tough decision.
No, it
This
wasn't.
felt like out and out assassination.
It was.
Losing your cool and with no basis
Because
to
they
shoot
could have
someone
waited
dead.
this out. I mean, they had him boxed in.
There
What
wasn't
was he
even
gonna
waiting.
do?
It was like
Throw the
minutes.
knife? Well, I mean, what? He's in the car. You've got him boxed in.
You can start trying to negotiate, come out, whatever you're gonna do.
Wait, call
Why'd
his
you
mama.
have to break a window and shoot at point blank? I know, Harry. Any thoughts?
Wait, call his mother.
You know,
wait till the people come.
I'm as pro cop as anybody, but come on, this stuff makes no sense.
If we can't say this is wrong,
Yeah, if you can't
then
say
there's just
this is
there's
wrong,
just no
then
conversation.
there's no argument.
And if we don't say the
to
state
even-
police, which has a horrible history, including in New Haven,
I'm
of
actually
violence,
tired of stuff like this.
Yeah.
I'm tired of the things that your eyes can clearly see, for them to put a different narrative.
because there
to it.
are complicated situations.
Yeah.
But this wasn't one
Babs
of them.
was on a police
this isn't
commission. She
complicated. You got him
understands
boxed in. He
that we
can't
got to
even get out the
protect our
car.
cops and train our cops. But if they could shoot like this, then
yeah,
they could just shoot anybody.
This is
anytime.
ridiculous.
I mean, they followed protocol up until this point. Like people, the cops didn't chase. They didn't chase. They boxed him
It was
in.
the state police did chase. That was
Yeah.
the problem.
See, they
The
should've-
state police doesn't do
Well, they
what the
have a
local
different
police
policy.
did.
They have a different policy, but
then state police leadership needs to either resign or
here's
Over
my
and
thing,
over again.
Paul.
When they
Here-
created the riot in New Haven with the dog set on the unarmed 70-year-old protester, and then the guy who did that, they let off and had him investigate a police shooting after that in New Haven. I mean, they don't
but
get it.
here's my thing. When you have he's boxed in, right? That means there's other cars and officers on the scene.
yes. You're not
Why
by
is
yourself.
he the only person emptying out his clip? Why is he the only person doing it? So that means that other cops are on the scene and they're able to react differently than you. That means there's something wrong with you.
We're in the year 2020. If a man with a knife who's mentally ill is boxed in by cops in a car and the door is closed, if that person dies from point blank 7 gunshots from an officer, then we've gotten nowhere.
Nowhere.
I mean, point blank, Paul. You see that? I mean, it's point
what
blank.
was the danger to the? I mean,
What-
you're there with your colleagues, with other police officers.
Sam Houdeman says, should he be brought up on charges?
Yes.
I think
And
so.
Patricia Kane
I
also
think
talked
this-
about it on the other one, that they're good people in government, but the process needs to be more at the grassroots. We're running out of time. This is so good. We could do it for hours. Babs,
Oh,
you're
wow.
right. You're right.
Wow, it's
Yeah.
12.
So
It is.
1 o'clock Sunday is the funeral at First Calvary Baptist Church on
This is
Dixwell Avenue.
insane.
4:30, among this rise in anti-Semitism and really deadly violence against Jews all over the world and in our country,
Mhm.
is going to be at the Holocaust Memorial
We've seen this story before.
on Whaley Avenue. We're going to have a
What are
memorial
we going to
event.
do about it?
I don't know. That's another conversation. And we're going to have that conversation. In the meantime, we're joining other cities around the world as the anniversary of the liberation of the Auschwitz death camp.
Yes.
And it is going to be a multiracial, multi-religious event, 4:30 at the Holocaust Memorial on Whaley Avenue near West Park, and then at Congregation Bethel Kesser, Israel for the event. Thanks for joining us today on WNHH-FM. Thanks to the miracle man behind the controls, WNHH station manager Harry Jones. Thanks to the best pundits and producers, and I need another P. pop culture analyst. Babs Rolls Ivy and Harry
Pretty.
Dross.
I like pretty.
No one's prettier, inside or out. We're going to take it out with the Afro-Semitic Experience performing I Wish I Knew How It'd Feel to Be Free from the group CD. A plea for peace more than ever. This is Paul Bass inviting you to fly free with us all weekend long at WNHH, New Haven's home for community radio.